So it's been an odd week. So far we got Marvel supports nepotism. No shocker. Elvira rides a broom, and DC made this. Let's talk about it. Roll that intro. What's going on, everybody out there? Hey, it's been a wonderful week. If this is your first time here, I'm Pocan Joe, and you're pretty cool for coming by. Love having you here on this big, giant spaceship we call Earth as we sail through the cosmos and read the good, the bad, and it just absolutely makes no sense. Welcome to my haul and review show where I'm going to break down my hauls for this week, give you a quick synopsis of them, see if anything cool was in them, and then on Sunday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to stand by what I said and debate it with other people. Well, maybe not debate. Come by and see us. Blaster Stash at 10 p.m. We have a live chat. You can interact with us. It's a fun time. Come on by. Also, if you check the link down below, I currently have my online auction going on. It's a safe, secure site where you can bid on comic books. A lot of this stuff I usually don't keep, so it usually makes it to there. That was a mouthful. Let's have an awkward sip of tea. So this week, the indie books really stepped up their game. We got all of these, and we spent way too much money for them, but that's okay. That's why I bring these the entertainments. All right, so let's go ahead and break it down. We start off with G.I. Joe #1. I'm kind of torn by this book. It's very obvious that this is driven to make some sort of point about anybody can be anything. I get it, and we don't recognize a lot of our heroes in it. If you're looking for the classic Joe teams to act in a certain way, you're not getting that in this book. For some reason, we got some guy that looks like Flint, but his name's Fakwa. He's a Pakistani soldier. He doesn't dress like a Pakistani soldier. He doesn't act like a Pakistani soldier. He's just a Pakistani soldier. We also got a young delivery guy who just happens to be Asian. So somebody watched The Walking Dead. His parents were killed in the massacre of Cobra taking over this particular portion of the United States, and his boyfriend has been missing. So we know that that's going to come back and haunt him. Should have divorced him. But I got to be honest, I have a lot of criticisms about this book. One is, apparently Roadblock is a big sissy now. Now, Roadblock's always been a pacifist. So in this, he does shoot somebody in the face, and he can't, handle it. And somebody's like, process it later. That's not how soldiers talk. I'm sorry. Also, in some of these parts here, I know that everybody, well, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people feel that if you scream in the military because you're the highest ranking one, that everybody's just going to just stop. No. If you're outright rude to people, like in this particular scene right here, no, you're probably going to get your butt handed to you. That does happen. I had a friend, he straight up choked out a lieutenant one time because it was being a punk. That happened. Did he get in trouble? Yeah. 45 days of extra duty at night. So he hung out in the weight room and just watched television. Yeah, that happened. I don't get this. As somebody who wrote this knows the characters of G.I. Joe, just not well. Doesn't understand how the military works. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying that G.I. Joe was always the perfect example of how the military worked, because God, no. Right? Uniform. Yeah. I'll just say uniforms. There you go. But this just seems awkward, and it doesn't make any sense. I wish sometimes if you're going to have action scenes, the guys would kind of, I don't know, maybe act them out themselves, even if it's just a walking thing. I'll give you an example as soon as I find it. There's this great scene right here where he's riding up on his scooter and he's got his Molotov cocktail. Now look what hand he's throwing that with. That just doesn't that seem awkward? What is he, is it a hook shot? What is he, Dr. J? So unfortunately, I'm not a huge fan of this. Will I be picking up issue 2? I probably will, because I don't think it's fair to judge a writer off of his first issue. I don't know this person, so we might pick it up. Honestly, it's going to depend on a budget, because I'm not breaking $100 this next week coming up. So yeah, if everything else kind of yeah. So we'll just say that. That's my word. That's what we'll stay with that. Next, we'll go with Once and Future. Once and Future, this is a great book. King Arthur has risen in this, and boy, he is bringing hell with him. Apparently, he likes his pureblood Englishmen. He's kind of racist, if you didn't know. Even in the old story of King Arthur, the continuation of it, he was a little bit of a racist then, too. Yeah, that happened. Okay, so Grandma's trying to give as much information she can to the grandson, but the truth is, there's just so much information that she's kind of being sharp and quib with him. He's not cut out for this kind of work, but at the end, it doesn't matter. We're going to get our action started in the next issue. This is going to be great. I've been enjoying this. I love the dialogue in it. I love the concept of it. I like the fact that as soon as King Arthur's risen, he's trying to find his Knights of Round Table. So the knights or the soldiers that healed him, he killed them and kept one of the ladies because she's pure blood English. Um, so yeah, and plus the artwork in this is just stunning. I know the camera's not going to give it much justice, but I'm going to tell you right now, thumb through this, and they're on like their 100th printing of issue number one. Like there's just this is ridiculous, but this is good. Definitely might want to check that out. Let's talk about weird Children of the Corn stuff. So this is You Are Obsolete. Apparently there's an island in the Baltic where the kids are kind of running the show. Now when I say kids, they're like, from what I can gather in this, I'm not seeing anything around the age of 16 or 17. They're like super young. And apparently when you turn 40, you're supposed to die. That's the gimmick here, right? The kids get a reporter to come because they have things to tell her, but we don't find that out. It cuts it off. Um, and the whole town's just entirely scared of these kids. Why they're not just kicking them in the face I don't, and throwing them out into the ocean, I don't know, right? Because in the story, we haven't seen anything like mystical or anything like that. They're just creepy kids that understand technology. Um, yeah, I don't know. Do I like the premise of the story? I think it's cool. Creepy kids have always made good reading. I don't know why. It's just what it is. The concept that at 40 you have to die. I don't know when 40 started to become old. Like, I don't know when that happened. Like, when I was young and we saw the 40-year-old, he was usually like the cool, hip, youngster's dad, right? But now it's like that's the old guy, I guess. I don't know. If you're under 40, watch out, because 30's next. So far, this is pretty good. I may pick up issue number 2 again. It's going to be a budgetary thing for me. I'm not so hooked into this. I'm like, I got to know what happens next. It's passive curiosity at best. Moving on. Second Coming. I have been liking Second Coming, not because I'm some mean atheist that hates God and everything else in the world, but this book does ask some very theological questions in it. Like, for instance, in this particular issue, the big question in this one is, Jesus tells the guy, he's like, yeah, I never met that particular author of the Bible. I believe he was talking about Paul. Yeah, he's like, I never met Paul. I don't know Paul. And he's like, well, Paul says that you saw him in a vision. And, these are all the things he like. And he goes, oh, isn't that kind of convenient? Like, isn't that kind of, right? The superhero aspect of this is kind of weird. He goes back to his little hometown because his mom or stepmother likes to wander off. We get a good caption of Satan in here. We got a little bit about him in the previous issue, but in this one, he's like, hey, what's going on, God? Check it out. This is kind of weird. Then what we find out is that, I don't want to use the word, well, I guess I kind of have to use the word. God is kind of forsaken. He doesn't understand why everybody's using his image and just not getting his message or misusing his message. And right there at the end, Jesus wept. Like, because he's sitting in a jail cell. Because nobody believes that he's honestly Jesus at this point. Also, we got a bunch of protesters that apparently have problems with gay people and everything else out there as well in this. The question tries to take a funny route to some very serious stuff. And I can see where people would have a problem with it. Like, he's making fun of our religion or he's making fun of our beliefs or whatever else. No, He's just asking questions in an entertaining manner. And I think that's a fair assumption. Because nowhere in there is it like, don't believe in God. But, if God is, or if man is fallible, then anything created by man is fallible. I think that's a fair assessment. But again, I'm not some atheist, religion hating guy myself. So reading it, I can take it for its satirical nature and be able to enjoy it. And I think that's the point of this comic book. Moving on, I picked up Napoleon Dynamite. Why? Because I like the movie. Like that. That's it. There was no big readout on this. This actually picks up right where the movie left off. So if you've seen the movie and it's still somewhat in your head, it's going to pick right up there. You don't have to reintroduce all the characters. It just assumes that you know them, which is great if you've seen the movie. I remember watching the short on MTV back in the day. And I was just absolutely thrilled to be able to see this. I thought that type of humor was funny. I read through this, and it's great. So basically, the question comes down, what's the legitimacy of Pedro's election? And somebody's actually trying to steal the election from him. That we thought he won fair and square, but come to find out there's something hinky going on with the votes in this. But don't worry, our man, Napoleon Dynamite, is on the case. Jeez. God. He does that in here. It's great. All right, moving on. Another book that I've just absolutely fallen in love with for its simplicity and its way to reach the reader in any way, or in a way, is Show's End. We finally get where it gets its title. Now, the assumption would be, and if we think to the last issue, we find out the young girl's actually a monster. And they actually did it in kind of a surprising way. We also find out that Flimsy died. The little pinhead, she's a pinhead. I believe that's what you call that particular type of character in the carnivals. If not, correct me down below in the comments. But anyway, so Flimsy gets dead. By the angry people that wanted the carnival out of town. It was really their fault, but everybody's still scared about the little girl that can turn into a monster. They legitimately have her back into a cage, which she's kind of okay with. She's so humbled and saddening that you can't say anything bad about this book because you feel like you're talking about a little starving orphan child. But I digress. In this particular issue, we get more about our evil colonel who's trying to chase down the little girl. We find out that he's a necromancer and he raids the dead, and they're all like the evil version of carnival people. Flimsy goes to a cemetery called, you guessed it, Show's End. And oh my lord, it was so sad. I felt bad. I'm like, why am I feeling this way about a damn comic book? I felt bad. It was so sad. And then to see the little girl give Flimsy back her doll, it was crushing. It's so sad. But then we pick up the tone with a great announcement that the little girl, she gets to stay with the carnival now and be somewhat safe. They're going to make her what is known as a blade walker, which is somebody who walks on blades. It's a grilled cheese sandwich. The recipe's in the title. Because her skin is pretty much indestructible. So they're going to do that with her, but our bad guy's hot on their tails because he wants his little monster. So we'll see where that goes. I absolutely love this. I could see this being adapted to a television show very easily. And it still get people's attention. I guess if the right people play, but that could be said anywhere. The next one is Steeple. Steeple's an very interesting story, and it's an odd one. So basically what we have here is we have a parish in some place. I want to say it's in Ireland, but I could be wrong because I kind of sort of paid attention to this book. Anyway, there's a father there, and apparently he's battling demons and monsters at night. Now, with that said, he needs help because he's getting older, so they send this little no-chinned, frailed arm, rather little bird of a young lady who is a priest. I'm not sure what the female version of that particular rank is. Comment down below, help me out. Into town. Now, this place is famous for where God walks on the land and the devil owns the ocean. This particular island is where the devil wants to take it back to the sea. This plays a role in here to some degree. We also have the house of, or I guess, the Church of Satan in here as well. And that's the duality that you catch right there on the front. Now, what we find out is that they actually meet up. They don't tell each other exactly who they are. And they're kind of friends. Like, they're kind of cool with each other. So we'll see what happens. We're going to move on. Oh, we get our first monster, and that's when we kind of find out that the devil kind of wants to destroy this place. Where does the house of Satan sits on it, it's kind of vague. So I don't know. We'll see. Me dropping stuff all over the place. Such a klutz. All right, moving on. One of my favorite stories this year is Middle West. I love me some Middle West. We find Abel turning into more and more of his father and his grandfather. He comes out of the winter forest and he's just a jerk. And we know this because he's cussing like nonstop. The fox can't figure out what's wrong with him. And as we know, the fox plays a very important role in him. It's been somewhat explained, but there's something mysterious going on there. Abel walks into a city. Him and the fox split up. And Abel gets kidnapped and then beats the hell out of a bully in this because he's a little jerk throughout this entire thing. As he's getting kidnapped, we meet up with the Birdman way back in, like, I think it was issue 3. Kids are being kidnapped, and he's reunited with Bobby from the carnival. What is it with carnivals this week in comic books? It's weird. Anyway, meets back up with Bobby, and because she's been kidnapped as well, and apparently they're flying off in a hot air balloon to some sort of farm as cheap labor. I like this. I liked us watching Abel kind of. Not only do we know he turns into the storm when he's super angry and super mad, and that just goes to show that some people can't handle their emotions, right? Especially anger. Anger is the one that catches most people. But what catches us even more, what catches me by surprise even more, is how Abel is transformed without transforming. His personality, his everything. The foul mouth on him, the rudeness, he doesn't want to eat. He's just an angry young boy, and even in some scenes, I had to look twice to make sure it wasn't his father in it. I think that's a good analogy of how anger can really eat on the inside of you, and that's something you need to take care of if it's a problem. Or not. Like, I'm not your psychiatrist or anything, but, like, seriously, if you're walking around mad all the time, shouldn't you be happy sometimes? So, yeah, definitely pick yourself up some Middle West if you want some introspect into your emotional standing. Last but not least, Elvira picked up off, or just starts a new arc, I should say. This starts a new arc, and she rides a broom in this one. That's literally what the solicitation said. I read it. It's the same stuff. We're taking off on another story. We have like a cult type of medieval guys that are hanging out in like a Dark Ages. Remember those restaurants where they ride around they do the sword fighting? If you're from South Carolina, it's the medieval version of Dixieland. Or Dixie Stampede. That's it. Dixie Stampede. It's the medieval version of Dixie Stampede. So, so yeah, ridiculous fourth wall breaking. A lot of sexual innuendos in here. And she rides a broom. She does. I wish I had more. I wish I had something deep. But I don't. Okay. So, yeah. DC. Oh, let's go ahead and talk about it. If you don't know anything about Inferior 5, don't worry, you're not missing much. They first started off as kind of a hinky, funny kind of comic book, and they obviously took a new turn because going meta is the way to go. We open this up with a young boy who has to move to a particular town, right? I'm trying not to get deep in this one because there's really nothing deep, but it's going to sound deep, and that's the bad part about it. So he moves to this rundown town. I mean, it's garbage. It's garbage street. All right, take the poorest zip code in your particular area, right, and then like dump more trash on it. That's where they live now, because apparently after the invasion of the, I want to say that they're doing a kind of a spin off of the invasion of the Dominators. You know, the things with the teeth. Yeah, those things. Here, there's a better, those things. Right? And come to find out, it's not really the end of the invasion. They're coming back, or they're covertly working at this point. Whatever the case may be. We have a little girl who's basically Daphne from Scooby-Doo. She's got a weird friend that's kind of like a cyborg, talks like a cyborg, blah, blah, blah. Then there's two that are just close, and one doesn't like it because he's a creeper. We got a whole lot of story here about their place, and then it ends, and we get picked up on a story on Peacemaker. Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody takes his mother away and paints the place in X's. Apparently, this is what happens in this area. That's all we got. I wish there was more. There isn't. And then we jump right into a story with Pacemaker. And yeah, that's pretty bad too. Apparently, he has to go do a covert mission where he's got to spy on something. And there's tons of narration wondering if he's ready. That's it. So yeah, that was very uneventful. Should we talk about it now? Did you read this? It didn't take you long. That's for sure. So yeah, this is still bad. All right. So this is my biggest criticism of this one. Oh, and trust me, there's many, but in this one, I hate it that this happened. So we got them doing all this great yoga stuff, right? Like just right, they're doing yoga, like middle-aged white people do that live in suburbia when they're on vacation. We got it. The problem with this is this entire book says that all these events take place after 2 issues ago. Why? Why not just have this issue be that issue? Why make us go through these mental gymnastics to keep up with you? It's ridiculous. That and anybody that does yoga like this with push-ups, you're a douchebag. Like that doesn't even make sense. How does I get a one-arm push-up because you're working on one arm? All right, but somebody balancing on your back, why is that happening? Like she's 80 pounds. I don't know. And then this garbage scene with this guy just kind of shows up out of nowhere and he's like, Gotham's garbage. And like, yeah, this is, I got to do it. I wasn't going to. So there's Magnum PI or Bruce Wayne or Batman or whatever name he's going by these days. Hanging out. Now take a look at him. Like he's kind of a beefy guy, right? So then we got like this. Let's say he's what 220, 225, just with the muscle alone, right? There's a guy of stature, right? You mean to tell me this 180-pound weak guy with glasses is going to come up there and just grab up on this man's woman? Like he thought that was a good idea. Even if you're like stone cold drunk, like you still have some sensory perception of that's garbage. So garbage. We get a bunch of kind of having sex scenes, but not really. Is it bad that the best story in here was the advertisement that's played in all of them for the Snickers candy bar? For some reason, they're in Hawaii and they decide to put on their outfits to stop a robbery because comic books, words, it doesn't really freaking matter. We get way over long scenes on just standing on a beach. That's it. I will say this. The art in this is absolutely stunning. I love the art in this. Also, when did Magpie get that hot? Like, seriously? I remember Magpie from back in the day, and I was like, oh, look, a kind of sort of female character. And now she's like, I'm a hooker, or whatever. Mama banging. All right, so moving on. We get the Stand By Me pose, and then we go right into the Magnum PI thing. Basically, they're going there to steal some venom that's going off to whatever. This thing made no sense. There was no reason to tell this story right now. You should just pack it up, change the number on it, and let it sit, and just let it flow. Because I'm sorry, but King's stories are confusing enough. Like the dialogue's weird. It's like everything's just odd about this story. I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he's trying to do, like, everybody thinks he's some kind of genius. I don't know where they're getting that from. But, okay, well, let's play that he's a genius. And this is a social experiment. And we've all been duped. Like, seriously. Because this is, I don't know. I don't know. Let's talk about something interesting. Moving on, we got Justice League. I'm liking this Justice League. I do. In this one, we're dealing with cool stuff like the past. And we get beautiful scenes like this of old school Flash saving World War II soldiers. We got battle scenes. And then if we jump into the future context, we see future Justice League battle, current Justice League. That's great stuff. So basically what we're doing is we're looking for these shards and Starman's rod. And we're trying to get them. So battle, 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 fight, fight, fight. Oh, look, there's a bigger Brainiac. It's absolutely insane. Brainiac 1 million even. Great stuff. Moving on to World War II at the end of the story. They're losing the battle. The bad guys show up. They're ready to kick some butt. But then all of a sudden this octopus comes out of nowhere and you're like, no, please don't do it. Please, he's dead. Like we're not supposed to see him anymore. Nope, there he is. The fish whisperer back, talking to goldfish and telling octopuses to squeeze everybody. If you don't know, I'm not a huge fan of Aquaman. That's just my thing. I'm sorry. You can cuss me out down below in the comments. Uh, moving on. Perpetua wants her son Anti-Monitor so they can destroy and rebuild the multiverse as they want. But we find out that finally the Anti-Monitor has picked a side and it's with the heroes and his two brothers. Boom! Battle done. That's what happened in that book. I like this story because the underwritten tones in it are actually more interesting. This is a story of family breakup or a dysfunctional family to some degree. We got Perpetua, who's the mother, and she's objectively bad person. And then we have the sons that are trying to do the right thing. And I like the allegory of one being a forger, one being a monitor, and one being an anti-monitor. With three children, there's always two that hate each other the most. There's always the outcast, that being the anti-monitor in this one. I love this, and I love how it has the ripple effect of everything else around it. It is the basis of this entire story and this entire arc of dysfunctional family. That's it. Something so simple for something so cosmic. I don't know. I liked it. All right, moving on. Step aside, Superman, because your kid came up with United Universe Day. All right, so we get one of my favorite characters. I'm an old school Adam Strange fan. He shows up in this to kind of find out everything that we find out that what's his name? Rajgul, Razol, Ragul. We'll call him Ragu. I like that. Anyway, once the guy's in stasis, they finally caught him. We find out that, yes, Superman's father actually created him because he felt like he was getting screwed over because of Krypton and nobody helping them. Get a good splash page of the Justice League, or the Legion of Superheroes, I should say. I like this. This is kind of cool. Like, the kids act like kids in this. Like, so they come from the 31st century and they're like, did we miss it? Like, what happened? Hey, Brainiac 5, what's going on? And because they wanted to see this momentum or this momentous moment in history where the kind of United Nations of the universe kind of was born. And the awkwardness of the entire thing. It's fun. I thought it was just fun. And they're absolutely in love with Superboy. They're like, oh yeah, Superboy, you're a hero. You came up with it. You need to come back to the 31st century with us. And Superboy's like, I don't know. So the next thing you know, the Thanagarians and everybody's still talking about unity, if this is something they really want to do. And finally, they're like, okay, who's going to represent Earth? Well, Superman steps up and says, I will recommend Earth. I have a small problem with that. You know, the fact that he's not an Earthling. And don't go getting all weird and political with me on that. I'm just saying. All right. At the end of it, they're like, okay, what are we going to call today? Blah, blah, blah. And, of course, Superboy is like, and that's what the 31st century Legion of Superheroes wanted to hear, right? So that's why they're there. A lot of dialogue congratulating them. And then we constantly go back to Adam Strange telling Superman that his father's pretty much going to be convicted and he's going to be punished. And he's like, okay, so what's the punishment? Well, we're going to send him back to the day Krypton exploded so he can actually be dead and watch his own death. It was horrible. But something very cool happened in here. I like this. The planet's blowing up. Things are dying. He's holding his wife, and he's standing, the same guy, and older, standing off. And he goes, he does it. He brings the universe together. He does it. He says it to his younger self. I thought that was cool. That was really cool. And then, of course, we got to see it again. Krypton exploding. Um, we get the House of Zod and the House of El. They kind of meet up, and they're like, "Hey, we need to stop, being jerks to each other." They're like, "Chill, cool. I'm gonna go start an outpost." Zod's like, "I'm gonna go start an outpost out here, and we'll call it Little Kryptonian, and peace out. We'll always have a bed for you." And then they roll, and that closes the story. Good stuff. I enjoyed it. Next one I think kind of went under people's radar is this Lex Luthor, you're the villain. One Lex to kill them all. This plays off that trope. If you've ever seen that Jet Li movie, the one where if you go back and you kill all the copies of yourself, you'll become stronger. Okay, that's the story here. Just to be clear. So he's jumping through different multiverses and he's dropping the bodies. Now, what we find out in this is the very first one he picks up is him as a child and kind of takes him on these fantastic adventures through the multiverse, killing himself. I always wanted to do that. Okay, so, but then as we're going through the story, he's doing all this horrific stuff. We see kind of like versions of Lex Luthor that are just weird, just whatever they can come up with. Like, there's one that's best friends with a green Superman, and he's kind of like a Batman type figure, and he's got it all figured out. The kid actually ends up killing one of them as well. We get a Lex Luthor that looks like Doomsday. Just a lot of stuff. But they keep referencing the Black Nightmare as, it makes a reality for you. It makes you happy. And in every scenario, we're kind of seeing this thing. And you may even sit there and think something to the effect of, that's kind of stupid. But there's a reason for it because it's a comedy. It's a comic book and they're foreshadowing in it. Even in the plant, Lex Luthor, he kind of talks about it as well. So what's really going on is, and we don't really know the entire story, but the kid has it on his chest and he's in stasis because he's DNA material if he ever needs it. So basically, we're just watching a kid's dream, a kid that was abused in the beginning of the book. We just watched his fantasy of killing all the other Luthors and being important and kind of having a father figure. It's sad. Okay, moving on. So sad. Let's see. Was that all my DCs? That's all my DCs. So we'll move on to Marvel now. And yeah, Marvel. So how many of you are reading House of X and Powers of X? Now, if all of you are raising your hands, I can't really see you. This is not a magical window. So comment down below. I picked up House of X #5, and we kind of get this interesting story. This is weird, and this is weird because we're supposed to believe that the X-Men are good guys, but I argue they're not in this story. Let me grab my notes. Well, Krakoa is a nation of its own now, according to the UN. They got all that together, but some weird things are kind of happening. First, this happened through manipulation, right? It didn't happen through a real process. They manipulated. Emma Frost just convinced everybody to make it happen. And then we start learning the politics of the place, right? The chat meet or the manipulations, the oaths. They learn to be patriotic, maybe a little. No, there's nothing wrong with patriotic, right? But in this one, it just seems very weird. People throwing their hands up and chanting, and weird oaths have to be given in order to be a citizen. I don't know. I can't. I want to say that it's a remnants of the beginning of Nazi Germany when the brown shirts finally won and everybody's very patriotic and things got really cool, and then like that went downhill quick, right? Like, 'cause Nazis are bad, like legitimately. So I don't know. Like, it just seems more. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if that's the route that they go. We also learn what the golden balls are. They're eggs because we can we can reincarnate. This whole thing's about reincarnation. So weird. And we can also, Xavier and his fancy little ballet dance there can give their memories back. Now, the question is he giving their essence, their soul, or their memories? I'm going to argue I've never known Professor X to do anything other than deal with memories and the brain itself. So they're copies as far as I'm concerned, but he makes some weak argument that they're really not. It's really the same person. Storm in this is kind of like, I don't know, she's kind of turned into like a preacher or something. I'm not really sure. She's the MC of the whole event, giving everybody their chance, saying things like, I know his name. This is weird. And everybody chants mutant, mutant, and it's so weird. It's, like, I want to say they're the good guys in it, but I don't know. I don't know. So they win their independence, and all mutants are allowed to come to Krakoa now. And of course, who's the first one through the door? The first one that knew Krakoa, being Apocalypse. He says some words, and everybody starts noticing that they've all always been kind of sounding the same. And he's welcomed home. So now Krakoa is one nation, under God, indefensible, because of freaking mutants, and not in check. Right? Like, this is now the powerful country out there. In other words, I loved this story. I like this idea where we're kind of tiptoeing around some dangerous subject matter. And we kind of are to this degree. If you're a sovereign nation, you have the right to do this kind of stuff, but we've seen this kind of stuff before, and what does it turn into? And historically. And given today's political climate, some people would say a lot of that stuff is happening today. So I don't know. It's interesting. I'm definitely picking up more of it, but I think I'm more fascinated with the story now than I am actually liking the story, if that makes any sense. I want to see where this goes, because it's weird. Okay, moving on. Guardians of the Galaxy. This was great. Oh my God, go get yourself some of this. So Peter Quill's father, as you know, has all those little eggs, and I made the prediction that it was going to be Paradox instead of another Adam Warlock scenario. Turns out I was wrong. I'm kind of okay with being wrong. I thought they went a much better route with this. Peter Quill's being shown the future, and the future is always bleak. It's horrible, and it's all because of death. So Peter Quill's father being the new minister of the Church of Truth. Sure, we'll call him that. We find out that he actually just kind of took over his body, like he's done with everybody else. Peter Quill ain't hearing it. He tries to escape, and he gets stopped by Cosmos the Wonder Dog. That happened. It's always a cheesy character, I know. And then we flash forward, and we see Rocket Raccoon in his Gundam-style outfit. They're battling a bunch of monsters. We don't really know what's going on there. And then we get Kid Magnus showing up, which was cool. I was very happy to see this. I was like, now that is tight. So then we're like, okay, still who's in the cocoons? Like, seriously, it starts breaking through, and they bring back Drax. Why? Because you just can't keep a good character down. And you need to renew the IP property every now and then to show that you're still using it so you can maintain it. Yeah. Anyway, Drax is back. Hopefully it's cool. Hopefully it's a whole army of Draxes. That would be just epically awesome. I don't know if they're going to do that. Be on the lookout for the next issue. They're hinting that that may be the one where Rocket Raccoon finally dies. And that will be a sad day. And then we'll resurrect him in the future. Because it's comic books. That's what you do. Old Man Logan. Old Man Logan's been a great read. If you've been reading this and you haven't been enjoying it, let me know. I don't know how that's even possible. Wolverine and Danny are on the hunt for Bruce, Hulk, baby. They're on the lookout for him. People think they can get some money. They get their butts kicked. We catch up with them finally. Lots of threats. Some of the funniest things happen in this. There's Mr. Sinister in the future. Drink it in. Drink that in. You drink all that in. That is just, so awesome. Of course, our heroes find some way to break Baby Hulk free. They start doing some damage. Things start getting broken. They try to escape again. Truck flips over, and guess what? Something cool happens. So there's apparently a church in the future that worships his Mjolnir. It's sitting in the middle of the road, and of course nobody can move it. Why? Because you know the rule. Nobody's worthy. I'm going to clear my throat on this one. So Danny, a female, gets out of the vehicle, and she's just daunted, and because it's rolled over like a dozen times. She falls down, she gets shot, and falls into it, and the hammer tips over. What does that mean, you ask? It means we have a female Thor that's actually kind of cool. Like, I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of the other female Thor, Jane Foster. It's not my thing. I didn't really like it. I thought it was a very Mary Sue type character. But then we get this character, and I've liked her through this story already. She's very motherly, she's caring, and she can kick butt at any given moment. She's like my wife. But just without a Thor outfit. Oh, I should buy my wife a Thor outfit. That would be awesome. Okay, anyway, I like this character. I think this is going to go places. We only got one more issue in the series. If you haven't been reading them, I would pick these up because this is an easy pickup. Next, Absolute Carnage. Again, Marvel is killing it with some of these books. Some of them, other ones, it's no comparison. So in this one, we find out that the hero showed up and they're going to help get the codexes out of the kids. Come to find out, not Reed Richards' guy, the thinker or maker, regardless, you know who I'm talking about. His science is pretty solid, and there was no reason for the kids not to trust him. But hey, screw it, we don't trust him. We're getting the codex out of him. Sleeper turns into a kitty cat because comic books. So we start getting the codexes. Now we have our superheroes there. We got Spider-Man, Captain America, Wolverine. Like, we got everybody there that's ever been a Venom. As far as the Avengers go and X-Men go. Well, actually, I can't even say that. We have some there. They got to get into the codex. Therefore, somebody has to guard the codex. Those who are Spider-Man and who we thought was Eddie. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, it's not Eddie at all. It's actually Carnage himself. I love this beautiful horror milk-facing changing into him. I thought that was just epically awesome. And then all the boys show up to come party because his milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. I know that was horrible, but I had to do it. So Venom's getting kind of tired of Eddie kind of being a weak guy. And Eddie is kind of like trying to be a father. So he's trying to protect himself so he can take care of the kid, but he's allowing all this danger to happen. It's this internal conflict, and it's driving him mad. Venom can't deal with it. Venom's got a job to do. He's got things to protect too. Well, what I forgot to tell you at the beginning is Bruce Banner's there running all this stuff that the thinker did. Yeah, the Bruce Banner. So all of a sudden, all these Carnages start showing up. What you think about this now and how this would play out in the movie? Right? You know where I'm going, right? All of a sudden, Venom feels how strong he is, or senses how strong he is as he's transforming. He jumps into him, and yes, we are Hulk happens. It was a beautiful page, and that's where they left us. I don't know why they're doing. Look, all this right here, all that, is nothing, except for one page that you may have missed if you didn't read it. This Ravenclaw emissions form for a Miss Frances Lewis Bannison, also known as Screech. So definitely want to check that out. She's probably going to be in the next issue. That should be interesting as well. It would make sense for her to be in there as well. Last but not least, yeah, I picked it up. I know you've been waiting for the review for it. Yeah, I picked up the Spider-Man. And this is where nepotism actually worked. This was a great story. Like, I'm not even kidding. I liked it. It had everything you could possibly want in a comic book. We get the awkwardness that we're used to with Peter Parker, only it's in his kid now, because you can only reboot Spider-Man so many times. We find out this entire story takes place in some post-apocalyptic with some of the most horrible things to ever happen in Spider-Man's history in this. They have a child as well who's saddened by all this. A little redhead demon child, a little ginger child. And apparently he doesn't like bullies either. And he gets into a little trouble at school, and Dad's like, hey, man, Peter Parker's like, you got to chill out. Also, if you don't know, Peter Parker loses a hand. The cat's got a hook. And apparently he's having to live with deal with his son, who's going through a very awkward time in his life right now. He's kind of aggressive. He's a little snotty. Can't really figure things out. Doesn't have a mom. Has to live with his aunt, or his great aunt. Yeah, Aunt May's still alive. I don't even know how that happened. And his hands are getting sticky, and because, he's at that age. He meets up with some chica And she's like, I'm a badass, but not really. And we actually have a very creepy villain who's being villainous, which is awesome. Um, Nightmares press passes. All of a sudden, apparently, he didn't know that his father was Spider-Man. He didn't know that. Dad never told him. But now he starts understanding, or at least the theory is that he'll start understanding who he is and what he can do. I think we got the creation of a great superhero here. I know there was a lot of talk about J.J. Abrams and his son doing this, and everybody's like, oh, it's just J.J. Abrams. This is some nepotism BS, whatever the case may be. I'll be honest with you, just because it is doesn't make it bad. Is this book bad? No, I don't think so. We have a great villain. We have a great story. We have a great premise, and we have a great plot as well. I think this is going to be a good one. I would definitely be picking all these up. I liked it so much, and as I've said before, I've stopped just buying covers to buy covers, multiple covers, but I couldn't help it with this one. I really couldn't. I got the 2 per store and the 1 in 50. These are the ones that I just absolutely loved the most. I had the chance to get a 1 in 100 and 1 per store, and I'll be honest, this is nah. So picked up those 2, and that's what brought me over budget this week. Hey guys, what are you doing Sunday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time? That's right. You're going to be at Blaster Stash It right there in our chat room. Telling us what you thought about any of these comic books, asking questions about the comic books that you may be interested in. We're happy to do that. Also, in the link down below, you can also check out my auction. This is a lot of stuff that I reviewed over the year. I generally clean out my boxes, especially if I got multiples or just things I don't want to keep. Auctions start at $1 and then goes wherever you feel comfortable. Pay the price that you want to pay. Don't overpay for anything ever. But there's some good stuff in there, some lots, some individual issues, a lot of cool stuff. Definitely check it out. Who knows? You might be able to pick up something that's a key issue for a couple bucks, because I wouldn't know if it is or not. Other than that, folks, I don't have anything else going on. Definitely check it out. See you on our social media, and I'll see you later. Bye.